Hi, Fix-It-Tony here. I've got another video that I want to share with you. This one is about my instrument cluster. And the issue is my speedometer gauge is predominantly the problem. It stays at the 0 mark. It stays right on that resting peg there. Let's take a look and zoom in. So you can see that there's some dots there. Don't know exactly what those dots are, but the peg, it stays stuck right there when I'm driving. And sometimes it'll pop at 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 miles an hour. I could be going 60 miles an hour for several miles and it still will get stuck. And then all of a sudden, boom, it'll pop. Then for the rest of the drive, it's just fine. It may even work the next day. So that's interesting. Other people on the YouTube channels and other places have talked about something similar, but they've also mentioned these other gauges stick. And my water temperature gauge hardly ever sticks. That's usually spot on. This probably only sticks 10% of the time. This one is probably 80% of the time sticking, and my tachometer never sticks. Some people have said if you're looking at your gauge cluster when the engine's running and you start seeing vibrating needles on any of them, they're suggesting it's some sort of a step-up motor or some sort of a motor or electronic circuit issue. That's not what I'm observing when my car's running. Other people have said that these pins and needles deteriorate over time and become physically sticky and actually adhere to these resting pins. So the solution would be to remove the cluster, clean the pins. And what's interesting is these dots. Don't know what those dots are. If it's liquid drops from the melting of the plastic, who knows? But today's video is going to be removing this instrument cluster. And there's a whole set of videos on how to do that. One is to leave the steering wheel on and struggle pulling this thing out and then just trying to, finagle it out. I'm not going to do that approach. I'm actually going to remove the steering wheel. So despite my disappointment in cracking this front shield, I'll see if I can get a new cover. If not, I'm gonna have to do a little bit of crazy glue and put this back in and have to live with it. So lesson learned, I don't know what the lesson learned is try to grab, so what happened was it pulled right up out of that groove there. You can see what the different grooves that you sort of try to engage in. Yeah, just be careful, dang gummit. So now I need to remove this back cover to access the gauges. So the way I'm going to do that is just carefully, systematically lifting up this tab and then pushing out that way. So it's going to be very gingerly and very delicately. And I'll let you guys watch. seal. There we go. Got her out. Whew. Let's get a little closer now. And this is the real problem right here. Ooh, that's wet. Let's see if we can get in close. I'm going to try to move this needle. Where's my... Oh yeah, look at that. Gross. Whatever that is. Wow. See that? I'll just keep playing with that. Alright, so I gotta somehow clean all that junk off. Weird. Is it the RPM? The fuel gauge. Let's check out the fuel gauge. Yeah. Ooh, yeah, you can really see that. Oh, wow. So that's probably why the fuel gauge sticks sometimes. And then sometimes oh, look at that. That's gross too. Wow. All right, I'm gonna think about how I'm gonna clean this. I'm carefully turning this over because I want to show you what looks to be a place for a light bulb, a 1.2 watt light bulb, but it is not there. And where that is, what that's for, it looks as though it is right behind this needle and it would illuminate this needle. So I'm curious why there wasn't a bulb in there. I assembled some options here. Various cleaning tips, a brush, an emery pad. I'm gonna also go get some 600 grit sandpaper, little dish. I'm actually using hand sanitizer. The reason being is when I did my video on cleaning my window light switches, window switches, power window switches, sorry for that flubber, I used the hand sanitizing gel that seemed to work quite well. So I'm gonna try that on here first. I did try it in an inconspicuous area by putting it on this black material and rubbing it and then buffing it dry just to see what would happen. And there were no obvious signs of damage. So I'm going to take a chance that, and I also put alcohol on these sort of white letters and numbers down here just to see if this would wash off or with the alcohol, and it didn't. So I'm gambling that it's also going to work on the numbers. I'm not using any solvents. Really trying to stay away from that. I also have my magnifying eyewear piece and some generally lint resistant cloths. And we'll get this thing set up. First things first, let's clean this. You seeing that yuckiness? Look at that. Okay, that's going to be unusable. You can sort of see the napkin or the cloth. Get a smaller screwdriver. Hope you're catching that. Me cleaning the needle. So I think I discovered something rather interesting. So when I was cleaning my temperature gauge, this one right here, a little black circle popped off the top and it revealed this copper color beneath. Then I noticed a little bit briefly when I was scratching that there was something underneath as well that was copperish. And then, I commented earlier that this is sort of very rigid, but now this has I think this is a copper pin. So I had just basically sanded, I sanded this pin to get off all of the resin or whatever there was using this sort of emery pad. And Just sort of sanding it clean. So now that I have this cluster out from the case, I really didn't know whether or not these bulbs, that each bulb is for a different check engine light, well, different error light or code light. And I wasn't sure if those bulbs at all were burnt out, because if the light didn't turn on, I wouldn't know if it was because a bulb was burnt or whether I had no codes. So the way that I'm going to check these bulbs is just check for continuity. If there's continuity across the bulb, that means the filament is still good. These are little either mini incandescent or halogens, very tiny. I actually bought a whole set of spares that are the exact same as the originals. And continuity, I'm gonna check the way that I check that is there's a couple of different ways. You can check continuity across these little fins. See, you can sort of check that. Another, I don't want to pull this bulb out because there's a little clippy thing right there. But if the bulb's in place, you can actually test continuity across these contacts in the back. So, for example, this is a brand new bulb. And there. All right, so I know this new bulb should work. So now I carefully turn this over. And I just went across each bulb and test it. And I tested them and they all work great.